It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
Oh, I thought we were going to do a drum roll there, but that's fine. This week, we've got a second Black Panther trailer, Mike. Very, very excited for this. Surprise dropped, but we kind of talked about that last week. Another trailer, Super Mario Brothers. I kept thinking it's a Super Mario movie. It is Super Mario Brothers, Mike. So that is drops online. We're going to talk about that and the scandal that is Mario's flat ass, if you will. We'll get to it. A Werewolf by Night scares its way on the Disney Plus. Ooh, spooky season, and more.
Yeah, spooky season indeed. I'll just jump right into it.
Yes, he's gonna do this because
finally.
Well, I just want to preface this. Mike's gonna jump into this because he texted me profusely during, I believe, the last movie he watched, which was Prey, right? Yeah, Prey. Because I watched it when it came out, and he was like, "Did you?" I'm like, "Yeah, a couple weeks ago." So yeah, please go on with your Predator.
Yes, I finally finished watching every movie with a Predator in it. I'm slightly disappointed that there wasn't like a random movie kind of out there in the world that had like a Predator like cameo in the background. Like, I'm not entirely sure, but I almost thought like, oh, maybe there's like a Predator in like Ready Player One or something like that, and maybe I could like throw that into
Space
the list.
Jam 2?
Is that?
It's Warner.
I don't think that's Warner Brothers. I don't think it's Warner Brothers, is it?
Yeah, Space Jam 2
Predator
was
Warner Brothers?
No, Predator's not. Predator's Fox. But I was gonna say I would not be surprised if they didn't find a way to sneak in.
Gotcha.
Predator.
But I was hoping like maybe since these movies span from like the 80s to like today, like maybe there's like a random like horror movie in the 90s that has like, you know, a Predator like somewhere in it that I could throw in the list. But yeah, this is every movie with a Predator in it, which is basically the mainline Predator franchise with the two AVP Alien vs. Predator films. So I finally decided to rank them here. And
this is official. This is an official rating from Mike.
Yeah, this is official for me. So I'll put them here in reverse. Obviously, in last place, it's 2018's The Predator. We heard me talk about that a little last week. It's just this weird combination of Shane Black trying to take the franchise in a different direction, but honestly, it feels like if you just kind of like could Mortal Kombat style, like turn the blood off, right? This would just be airing every weekend on TNT. It's more of like an action movie than it is really anything is suspenseful. It's just very, very silly. So that's why it gets the last place. Second to last, but still, I would say with some redeemable qualities, was Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Gosh, I really wish I could have seen this movie. Literally, it's so dark. All of like I feel like the really fun action moments, like I'm just squinting looking at these glistening silhouettes like try to fight each other. And I say glistening because predators and aliens are always wet. They're always wet and glossy, and something's always shining on
If
them.
it's not shining, it's green glowy blood from somebody. Somebody's got neon green blood.
Yeah, and it gets confusing to follow the blood sometimes, right? Because the alien blood is acid, kind of, depending on what movie you're watching it on. Then the Predator blood is also glowy. So I think what we take away from this is if we find a creature outside of Earth, their blood is not red. It's going to be some sort of neon color. That's how we identify aliens on cinema.
And this movie, I think, despite it being next to last year's, has my favorite Predator kill with the hallway.
That is like the standout moment that I feel like I haven't quite seen in other movies before, and I will describe it. If you don't remember, there is kind of like a quote-unquote hallway scene, but I think it's more of like a long hole that's bored into like a building, so it's kind of like an alien hallway, if you will. And there is a predator. Is the predator fighting an alien at that moment, or is the predator fighting a human at that moment?
I think it's fighting the
aliens,
predator.
okay.
It's the aliens, alien dog, or the alien predator, one of the three.
I remember now. The predator is like fighting aliens in like this bored out tube, and there's like these two aliens aliens that are crawling along the tube towards him, and I think he has run out of ammo or something, so he takes out like his badass like blade frisbee. He throws it down the hallway, like slicing the aliens in half. And that on its own is like pretty cool, right? And then like, the frisbee just goes off into the distance thinking like, okay, that's enough for the frisbee. It's done. We're not going to see it for the rest of the movie. But then we cut to the characters like in the normal kind of hallway of this hospital, just like rounding a corner, just minding their own goddamn business. And all of a sudden the frisbee flies from left to camera and just nails this one chick like right to the wall. And it's just like, I've never quite seen like collateral damage quite like that, because it's not like the Predator was aiming for her. She was just the quintessential wrong place, wrong time.
And again, I always say that's my favorite thing, because it's like, you don't expect it, right? Like, you're like, okay, he threw something, you're never going to see this again. And then you don't, like, when you think of collateral damage, you think of like, oh, this is somebody within splash damage of alien blood melting. This is not a literal fleeing blade, but like it's just a brutal death. And I absolutely love that small, like 15-second sequence in this movie. I feel like that's like, if you were like to ranking, that's the highlight of the movie. Just watch it. You've seen this movie.
Yeah, that's like a whole other ranking system, right? We just rank our like favorite bits from all of these movies. But small is also another good thing to point out of the scale of the scene too, because you always forget like these predators and aliens are so much bigger than humans, and so this frisbee that basically would fit in the predator's hand, it's like the size of like a freaking tire, right? A car tire that like nails this chick to the wall. So anyway, Aliens, Predator, Requiem. At least there was some bits that you could take out of it and enjoy. So that gets second to last. And then we get into, I don't know, maybe this would be slightly controversial. I don't know. This was the first time I had seen it. It's Predator 2, the original sequel, straight out of 1990. I would say, for what it's worth, it's good. It's good for what it is as a Predator film, but I feel like you're kind of hitting that same kind of like late 80s, early 90s like nostalgia for me with it, but you're just not quite reaching kind of like the same just effectiveness that the original film did. So even though you're having a good time, it's just like, oh, you kind of just wish you were back in the jungle with Arnold the whole time. But I will say, there is something in this movie that I have never quite experienced before, and I was not ready for it. The first 15 minutes of this film is just a cacophony of 80s, 90s gunfire. And if you remember what guns sounded like in movies back in the day, they just sound like huge freaking cannons going off. And it just happens like that. At the beginning of the movie, there's this crossfire between the LAPD and these gangs, and they're shooting guns back and forth. And there is no lack of ammo. These guns are going off consistently, constantly for 15 minutes, and it almost gets to the point where it's funny because characters need to have dialogue at the beginning. They're like talking to each other, they're trying to strategize, they're yelling over the hail of bullets, and there's like reporters and like citizens like awkwardly way too close to the action for all of these bullets going on. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I cannot imagine seeing this movie in theaters, and then finally when you get a breath from like the bullets, like your ears would just be ringing. Like, it was I've never quite experienced something like that. And I would put it in the positive column, though. I'm not saying I always want to watch a movie that's consistent gunfire, but I was like, okay, this is a unique experience that I haven't really felt in a movie before. So I would say that is a positive for it. I'm glad I watched this movie because I didn't realize that the ending scene where Danny Glover is handed an artifact,
a gun,
shows up again. Yes, it shows up again in another Predator movie, and maybe I'll kind of I'll bury the lead a little bit on that one. I don't want to spoil it too much. But I would say Predator 2 in the 5th slot out of 7. After that, we go to Alien vs. Predator. I would say this side of the ranking scale are probably movies I would enjoy watching again. And I thought Alien vs. Predator was fun. It kind of feels like you're getting riffs from the director on the Thing, because you're getting that kind of Arctic, kind of sci-fi horror setting, and we finally get to see the predators and aliens fight each other for the first time. This movie takes place in 2004, so yes, there are computer special effects, but there are a lot of practical things happening as well still in this film, so you kind of get that fun nostalgia of special effects practical filmmaking in Alien vs. Predator.
And it's also, of the two movies, it tries to be connected, like, right? It includes the same actor who plays the alien or the robot in Alien 1 as like his human form, like his human base in this movie. So it's really like, I know it's your favorite director, Mike, who does all the Resident Evil movies, but like it's still like it's trying, like he's trying to make it connected to these universes and make it make sense. But at the end of the day, it's still got a hell of a nice battle at the end of the movie, which is fun.
Yeah. Surprisingly, it doesn't feel like a gimmick, where I would say Alien vs. Predator Requiem feels more like a gimmick to me. So coming up on the top three, number 3, 2010's Predators. We talked about it a little bit more at length a couple weeks ago on the podcast, so I'll keep it short. Just a great cast, interesting setting. This is the first time like humans had gone to a different like planet to fight the Predator, so like they're totally fish out of water, and you think the scales would be totally shifted against them, but like I feel like the story like really pushes through, and there's some cool awesome scenes. There's like a samurai showdown that's just great towards the third act of this film. So Predators solidly at number 3, and then of course, so we got number 1 and number 2. So this was a little bit of like a struggle, right? Do you give the original Predator the number 1 slot or not, right? Is it effectively the best Predator movie? Does it just get bonus points because it's the first one that kicks off the franchise? You know, where exactly do you put it? And I'll go ahead and say it. Predator is number 1, which puts Prey, the newest film, at number 2. And I just watched Prey the other day, and it was great. An amazing setting. I love that it kind of takes place in the past. That's the best part about this Predator franchise, is these Predators have just always kind of existed throughout humanity. So you can just kind of make these movies whenever you want, and they make sense because you don't have to set up the Predator too much. They're just big trophy hunters, right? And you never know when they could show up on Earth. So I think it was 64 or something like that. I don't remember the exact dates, but you know, we have the they're not Cherokee.
No, I think they're Comanche Nation.
Comanche, yeah, Comanche. Comanche. I guess, yeah.
It's a try. Yeah, and yeah. So it's literally. I guess it's funny because I think to me the Predator franchise suffers the same thing as Star Trek. The odd number ones are good, and like if you go in like release order, like every other one of these is enjoyable, right? Like Predator, good. Predator 2, okay. Alien vs. Predator, we're back. Alien vs. Predator 2, no. Was it Predators? The 2010 one?
Predators.
Great. The Predator, no. Prey, great. It's very interesting to watch it wane back and forth with these releases, right? But yeah, I think the Prey suffered, the biggest suffering Prey had is knowing it's a Predator movie from the trailer. I think if we'd gone into that without knowing it, it would have been that, I think it would have probably even outdone the Predator actual movie. I think by
could have been
holding that surprise.
Yeah, that could have been really fun, but who knows? There is definitely a struggle out there for attention and eyeballs. So, you know, it would have been harder to get people to watch an original streaming movie on Hulu for sure, unless you connect it to the Predator franchise. But who knows? Maybe they could have got that X factor of like, the first weekend it came out, people start writing buzz and articles about it. Oh, it was a secret Predator movie and it's great. Maybe more people are going to watch it. But I think it did do gangbuster numbers for Hulu, if I remember right, after it released. But yeah, it's a great movie. Some awesome Predator kills in this film. I tried to watch it dubbed in the Comanche language, but it's kind of this weird thing in my head where it's originally filmed in English, which I think is fine. They know that the majority of their audience is going to be English speaking, so they had the characters speak English. But when it's dubbed in Comanche, even by the same actors, it's strange because their mouths are, they're still moving towards the English word. So my brain just couldn't quite like focus on it, so I just switched back to the original English version of the film. But it's great. Amazing Predator kills, a cool Predator design. They look a little bit different. The helmets were a little different. The technology was similar but has some uniqueness. I sent this text to Chris that I think the most underrated thing about like the Predators in general is their goos. I love their little goo vials. They got a vial for everything. It can dissolve things. It can be It can be like a medicine, it could be like welding or something like that. I've been fascinated with the Predator goose. But yeah, it was a great film. The only downside I would say is, since we're focusing a lot on Mother Nature kind of in this film, there's a lot of animals involved, I would say, more in the first act of the film, and they just don't look as good to me when they're fully computer animated and generated. Like there's a scene where like we kind of see the Predator kind of slowly work its way through the animal kingdom. Like it starts off like killing snakes, then a wolf, and then a bear. The bear fight's really, really cool, really intense. It's fighting a bear. Obviously it has to be fully CG in order to do that, but there's even like little scenes where like, oh, there's like a rattlesnake that kills a rat, and then the Predator kills the snake, and it's just like kind of like a big CG scene. So, you know, I guess there's not much you can really do about that, but that's just kind of nitpicking. Overall, Prey was great, a close second to obviously the original Predator. It's kind of hard to beat the machismo in that film. You know, there's a lot of great films out there in the world, Chris, but only a handful of them ever get to be iconic. And you can't argue that the original Predator is not iconic. So I think that's why it gets the number one slot. It's well deserved.
Well, I also know you like the handshake between Arnold and Carl Weathers. I know that's cool. To me, that movie really starts at the log bridge, right? Like everything leading up to that movie, like about the saving the people in the village, like none of that really like I always forget that. Like you could just start the movie where they're crossing the bridge to get back to the helicopter, and then they're I believe the Native American person on the squad turns around and goes back in to the forest. I'm like, this is where the movie really starts for me. The rest of it, I don't, because like you said, it's forgettable because, you know, it's a it's a hunter versus the hunted kind of thing. It's really, you know, really, really good. But I think, you know, to your point, like I said a couple weeks ago, Prey is a fantastic. It's not a modernization because technically it's hundreds of years in the past. It's just very cool to see that kind of crossover with that. So I agree. It was very. I agree with your rankings. Probably, if I'm looking at it again here, double checking. Yeah, these are probably okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah, there's even there's a bit of an after credit scene in a way for Prey where they kind of give you tribal kind of drawings while the credits roll that kind of recap what you watched in the movie, and at the very end they tack on an extra drawing of kind of like, oh, there's more Predator ships that could possibly arrive. Yeah. So I'm kind of hoping that there's a sequel. I'm curious what they would do. Would we stick with the exact same characters? You know, since obviously colonizers are coming across the continent in this film, you know, are they going to throw more of that into the next one? I'd love to see a sequel.
Well, I would too, but I mean, you know, no spoilers here for this movie. But I think you do another time period. I honestly think the paintings depict what does happen rather than what's going to happen. And I think they just need to pick, like, you know, it prays like, here's their predators have been coming to Earth for decades, years, hundreds of years, thousands of years. Can we try another era, right? Or another, like, kind of, I guess, what does a predator in Russia look like, right? Maybe one gets dropped off in a gulag in the 1920s or something like that. Like, what does that look like?
To me, it sounds like you're setting up a kind of an Assassin's Creed franchise here.
And that's kind of what this is, right? Because it's kind of all over the place. So, but
I would love to see like a Predator video game, right? I feel like they really nailed what it's like to be next to like Xenomorphs with Alien Isolation, that survival horror game. I would love to see something like that with Predator. I mean, I don't know what would be more fun gameplay wise. Would it be more fun to be the Predator? Would it be more fun to be the human trying to survive against like the odds? Or, you know, maybe there's some sort of like online co-op. I know that there's that what's that, Dead Before Daylight? Is that the game?
I think it's Death by Daylight or something like that. Dead by Daylight. Yeah. So I think, like, what if it's an asynchronous game, right? Like all those, like that, like literally one person is the Predator and 4 people are people, like, and you have to survive until you can get to the chopper or get out alive, right? But the Predator's like setting traps and like luring you in. I think that style would be awesome. Ghostbusters is doing that with their upcoming game. Dragon Ball Z actually has one called The Breakers, which is the same thing. Someone plays as a villain, 4 people are just normal humans. or characters trying to survive. I think that would be great for a Predator franchise. And then literally you give them, because there are so many different. You look at a Predator, you're like, that's a Predator, but there are different variations in those Predators, right? And you kind of see them here and there. If you go to the Wikipedia section, you can check more. But if you are a big fan of the Predator, I believe it's Mortal Kombat 10, or maybe 10 has a Predator and Aliens pack, so you can play as the Predator or Aliens in Mortal Kombat 10. So that's an older game, so you can probably pick that up pretty cheap, Mike, if you wanted to. So, anything else? You done with this? We talked about it before the show. We think our
Predator
next
franchise is wrapped.
Our next test might be Hellraiser franchise, since the new one just dropped on Hulu. So catching the hits of Hellraiser. Yeah,
not gonna watch 11 of those, but I've never seen Hellraiser before, so it might be kind of fun just to watch it and then tune back in. And
it's spooky season. We gotta get those movies on here. I'm trying. I have I told Mike there's another movie we'll talk about later. I'm gonna watch, but I think it's we got a couple weeks of spooky movies if you guys are into that kind of thing. All right, let's jump into news. This is the important part of the show here. So first up, foremost, everyone's very highly anticipated movie, El Muerto. You might be asking, what the hell's El Muerto, Chris? Oh yeah, this is that Spider-Man spin-off movie that Sony announced that focused on El Muerto, the enhanced wrestler who worked with Spider-Man in like 3 issues of comics ever. They've added a director, Jonas Cuaron, who is the son of Alfonso Cuaron, Academy Award-winning director. And they've also hired Gareth Dunnet-Alcocer, who worked on the Blue Beetle script, is also writing the script. So it feels like they're still threatening us with this movie, Mike. And this is even closer to fruition than we maybe anticipated.
Yeah, I feel I just don't have much to say about this one at this present moment.
Have you watched Bullet Train yet?
No.
Okay,
not
so
yet.
so the actor who's going to be El Muerto, Bad Bunny, right? The music artist. His first big acting role was in Bullet Train. He's actually really good in that movie. I really, as a character, really impressed with him in that movie. And I don't know if he'd be bulky enough to be a luchador wrestler, but I really enjoyed him in that, and I would like to see him in a movie. But like this is a very weird thing to create out of all the characters you have under your belt at Sony. So this seems to be a very competent team here, Mike. The Jonas Cuaron, his last movie, or maybe one of his first movies, was in 2015 with the guy who played Werewolf by Night, the actor. So he's got a little bit of street cred there. Not much else, but we'll keep you guys posted as that gets closer to release date. Moving on, Avatar, Mike. The producer of those movies, not James Cameron, the actual other producer, has said that they've already shot the first act for the 4th film. So 2's not even out. 3, I believe, was shot in tandem with 2. But I didn't think they'd be this far ahead on 4 yet. So yeah, what would you want out of 4 Avatar movies, Mike? Like, what are we expecting by the 4th movie here?
Isn't there supposed to be a fifth one, right? Aren't they scheduled out through 5?
Through 5, yeah. I mean, 1, get it, totally understand. 2 is The Way of Water. 3 is probably going to be a very quick follow-up to 2, right? Like, Way of Water, pick another element, The Way of Air. I don't know. I don't know where this is going enough to feel comfortable saying, like, yeah, go ahead and film a 4th one when we haven't even seen 2 or 3.
Well, like we've said before, don't count James Cameron short. Mm-hmm. He's got some of the highest grossing movies on the planet under his belt. And, man, it's been a minute since I've seen Terminator 2, right? That is a seminal movie to my childhood. So that's from Cameron himself.
Yeah, it's Jon Landau is a producer on this who said this. He's also said that they've, even though they've already filmed the first act for the 4th movie, it's weird because you don't normally film movies in order, right? Like you don't film them by acts or scenes, like you film them best production schedule. So maybe it's a test. They have planned out the rest of the movie, so maybe they're still adjusting the film based on how people react to 2 and 3, or mostly 2 probably. But the biggest question here is I don't know who the director is on this, and I say this because we assume it's James Cameron, but James Cameron said he might want to step away from doing all the Avatar movies, right? Like he hasn't done all the Terminator films. So who's I would not be surprised if there's another director doing this for the fourth movie while James Cameron finishes up 2 and 3, in the studio. I don't even know who I'd want to put in there to this because we haven't seen it. But it's wild to think they're already on 4 after 13 years of not even having another one at all. Mm-hmm. My goal, even though we said we wanted to watch Avatar in theaters, would to be just to get a good copy of the 4K one at home and watch it when it comes out, the original. So, Avatar 2 coming up December. We'll let you guys know more when that gets closer as well. The news that's, I don't know how to take this, Mike, but Sherlock Holmes is in public domain. I don't know if you know that or not. As a character. Yes. So his other characters are. So they are doing a TV show called Watson, and it will apparently pick up after Sherlock is murdered by Moriarty. Now, you may or may not know, in the original Sherlock Holmes books, Sherlock was killed by Moriarty until fans outcried after the book, and I guess the writer, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. It's on the tip of my tongue. Backtracked it and kind of reverted that a little bit. But it sounds like this show will be a medical drama with detective elements. The biggest question I had here is this connected to anything we know? When is this even set? I don't know the era, but it will be written by Craig Sweeney, who wrote the first 5 seasons, I believe, of Elementary, that modern Sherlock movie or series, right? That had it was on TV like CBS or ABC or something. Yeah,
I remember this show. Elementary kind of came out of the popularity of the BBC Sherlock show. That show was really popping off in America, and then I think it's like a CBS show or something. Yeah, we got to get our own.
Well, it was the Robert Downey Jr. ones. They did the second one, and they were like, "Well, we don't have plans for a third one yet." And then the BBC one was also hot, so they're like, "What can we do? Let's make this modern day." Sherlock movie. It's got the actress who was Lucy Liu, right? Who was in that one as well, so as the foil. But the show is not related to any existing Sherlock properties. So Watson will not feature any characters we know or have seen before. But I don't know. Do you think they're gonna do one of those things where Sherlock's really not dead, like a season or 2 into it to get more ratings? They're like, hey, we lied. He was in hiding the whole time, kind of thing.
Who knows? I mean, this feels like it's got network drama kind of written all over it.
Oh, yeah.
No rules there.
Yeah, I actually did not put down who is picking this up at all, so I was going to take a look at it. Oh, it's CBS. Yep, you're right. It's CBS, Mike. So, again, this one will be another CBS. CBS just loves their Sherlock, so there you go. Other shows, I guess I didn't know this was happening, or maybe I forgot about it, but Justice U is a Diggle-led spinoff of the CW shows that he was in. And apparently this is still in the works, according to, is his name John Ramsey, the actor, as of this week. So apparently Diggle will recruit younger metahumans to train them as heroes of tomorrow, and they're going to go undercover into some sort of school system, whether I think it might be a university, college. So, boy, I thought we were done with these style shows.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is pointless to say because Hollywood is a business and they're looking for money, right? But that's kind of what this feels like to me at this point in time, right? They're like, hey, we want to add some more shows to our lineup while the CW, is still a functioning channel on TV, because who knows how long that's going to stay in place for, right? So just make up a new superhero show. Doesn't really matter how many seasons it runs. We already pre-sold the ad spots. Fit this budget and we'll be good to go, and we'll keep this train going for maybe another year or so. But yeah, it doesn't seem like, to me, at least as far as I know, if anybody out there is still a really big CW superhero watcher, really invested, I think really just Superman and Lois is the only thing that's left that I think has quality to it, right? I don't know how much else is still running. If
the Flash is any. Well, the Flash is ending at least, so maybe they'll and it's on a shorter episode season, so maybe they'll go out with a bang. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's any strategy even that you could glean from anything that's left out there, right? You know, I would think like, oh, if this is a strategy, this is a way to build up new heroes and spin them off into their own show. But I don't know.
This news came on heels that the president of the CW, who's been there since like the Arrow and Flash and like push all these shows, he left this week. So that's why they had to come out and say the show was still in the works. So I think this is like like it might get 2 or 3 seasons. Stargirl's still out there, right? You know, I hear it's doing really well. And like I said, Superman versus Lois, neither of those have been canceled yet. But to add another one in after they've kind of like pulled everything else back is kind of weird, right? Like especially this one, because nothing against the character Diggle, but like it's just kind of he was never leading character material, right? Like he was always a sidekick though. So I don't know. This is weird.
This feels very Jeff Loeby, right? Remember when he left and he still had some properties kind of like dangling out there, and then they just kind of all got cut. Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the actor what's his, whatever Diggle's actor name, he has directed a lot of episodes of like The Flash or Legends of Tomorrow. Like he's still been around, right? Like helping with this stuff. So maybe this is like a good faith kind of thing. Like, hey, you know, I've helped you. You know, make these shows. We're doing them. Can I have like at least 1 season of this? But I just don't see, you know, with Gotham Knights getting greenlit as well. I don't know what these are going to be like, and why they shouldn't go to HBO Max, which kind of brings us to our next topics. This is literally fresh news, Mike. I literally got this news while we were sitting here, and you saw me type them into our show notes. Titans and Doom Patrol Season 4 Part 1 of Titans is dropping November 3rd, 2022 on HBO Max. And Doom Patrol Season 4 Part 1 is dropping December 8th, 2022 on HBO Max. So they are now, HBO Max seems to be retooling these and calling them both Part 1s for their season. So maybe they're going to drop what they have done and then wait to drop the other parts, because I don't have those dates yet as well. So, but they
seem...
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, it seems like they've survived the Zaslav chopping block that's been going through the entirety of Warner HBO, chopping what's not working. So it seems like it's working for them, at least statistically, on the back end of the streaming service.
My guess is they couldn't get a tax write-off, because if they're debuting in November next month, in December, they probably already had them filmed by the time he took over. So I don't know if we're gonna get it, but they are doing weekly episodes on these. So if you're into weekly television, you can go check out Titans and Doom Patrol weekly on there. Have you caught up on any of these? I know you were trying to watch Titans for a while there.
No, I mean, Chris and I were talking off mic before we started recording that like there's like we say all the time, there is so much stuff that even the really good stuff that we had planned on watching still gets put into a hopper, and we haven't got around to watching it all yet. So unfortunately, Titans and Doom Patrol, I feel like if you want to be a DC series, right, that kind of makes it into my must-watch list nowadays, you're going to have to be directly tied to like some sort of movie, right? You know, kind of a la Peacemaker, right? Something that's like got the star power in it to really make me go, okay, I'll turn off my, $1 billion acquisition of Lord of the Rings TV show and switch over to your show to watch it. One of those things.
And I don't think it's necessarily a quality issue for these, but like, it's a kind of a will they, won't they? Like, if it's gonna is this show relevant, or is it gonna just kind of be blipped out of existence, if you will, at a moment by some crazy person running your network?
The best thing that could happen out of this, they announce, their final seasons whenever they're going to be. They wrap up the story in a very satisfactory way, and then one day in the future, when I'm just like needing something to binge watch, like, oh, honey, let's watch Doom Patrol. It has 5 seasons, and they're all really good, and it comes to a satisfying ending. Yeah,
Doom Patrol, I think it would be, because I've watched most of it. Probably my most interesting. Titans, not so much. However, they did say, I'm seeing the trailer description here for Titan Season 4. They've added actor Titus Welliver. He's like in Bosch and some other shows. He was in the MCU for a little bit. He is playing Lex Luthor in this upcoming season. So I don't know if that's enough to get me into Titans, but at least they're throwing some bigger names at the show rather than just like, hey, we've got, I don't know, Garbage Pail Kid or something weird like that. And it's like they're like, oh, we're gonna pull Superman's nemesis into this. So I've got to kind of follow that up a little bit more. But I am excited to kind of see what Doom Patrol does. Again, we are in the Brandon Fraser sauce, right? Like he's getting accolades for The Whale. He was in Batgirl before it got buried more than 6 foot deep, and now he's the voice of Robot Man in this. Or is it Robot Man? Machine Man? I don't know what it is. I think so. It's one of those two. So anyway, those were just announced, so those are fresh, hot off the press. But we're going to stay in the DC universe for just a little bit more, Mike. We want to talk about Superman. Superman. The character that has literally pulled DC forward for, almost 100 years, and they still haven't put out another movie for him in almost 10. The biggest rumor this week is that Henry Cavill has rumored to strike a deal to get his own Superman movie again. So he's back in the fold at Warner Brothers, Discovery, whatever you want to call it. And this kind of stems on the back of that he will appear, reportedly, in Black Adam, The Rock's movie. And I would not be surprised if The Rock takes credit for bringing Henry Cavill back as Superman in like a month after this movie comes out.
Yeah, you can already see the two of them, right? Like shaking hands, like on The Rock's Instagram account. Trying to get those.
They're putting up their fake fists, man. Like because The Rock, he's like, I want to fight Superman. The Black Adam wants to fight Superman. I mean, if this is true, I guess that's great because Black Adam, the movie, is being pitched as someone who is like as strong as Superman but without morals, right? That's what it looks like. So rather than showing Henry Cavill's suit without his head again for like the 8th time, you bring him into it. I think that's fine, right? Like even if you don't use him again, but that would be awesome if this is true and we get a Superman solo movie announcement. I think that'd be really, really, hype for the DC universe, Mike.
Yeah, who knows? It's so hard. It's so hard to be excited about anything anymore. Wow, what a depressing old man I've become, right?
Yeah, that was very vague and very depressing. I mean, let's come on now, get with it. But yeah, I know we have Superman fans, so if we get something good, like I said, just a solo Superman movie would be fantastic. So maybe we'll see what we can get. On the flip side of that, The Flash has reportedly done some last-minute pickup shots, and pickup shots are not reshoots, by the way. They're not reshoots. They're like, hey, we got the wrong angle, or we need to get a new angle on a shot. But apparently, this movie is picture locked, Mike. Do you know what that means?
That means it's in the can, if you will.
Yes,
there you go.
They're close, very close. There's only sound and VFX shots to be added, so there's no more principal photography, no more Ezra Miller on set. This is going to be good to go. So they're just going to finalize the effects and the sound, and it'll be good to go. Now, sources, rumors have been telling me, I don't have it in here, but that at the end of this movie, Michael Keaton will still be the main Batman going forward, like they plan to do it, and Ezra Miller's fate is still unknown. So, I wish I was. The Flash is like the most exciting movie aspect coming out of DC, and I'm not excited about it. Kind of like to echo your previous sentiment.
Yeah, the funniest prank not even prank, but I think just the funniest thing that they could do is cast another actor to be Barry, and slowly throughout the 2-hour runtime of the film, just start slowly like deep faking the new actor's face onto it. So it's just like, oh, why does Ezra Miller look so strange in the middle of the second act of this film? Like, he doesn't even look like himself anymore. And then by the end of the movie, it's like, oh, it's just a different actor. They slowly acclimated me to a new face, and now we can just move along. It won't happen, but it would just be funny.
No, yeah. I think the to me, the big reveal is like maybe the evil Barry lives, and we don't know it. Like hey, we're going to have Ezra Miller, but he's the bad Ezra Miller, so we can kill him off in whatever movie we want to have him in, or TV show. But, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I'm... After Black Adam, we have what's that? Shazam 2, right, next spring, and then this movie next summer. I just don't know what to think. I want to know more about it. That first trailer we had 2 years ago was awesome. With when they were showing the two berries and Supergirl and they're in the Batcave. So I'd like to see some more. Maybe we can get some soon. Super Mario Brothers, the movie, got its first trailer this week after people.
This was the news of the week, right? This was all over my timeline. So much so I forgot that the Black Panther trailer dropped, which we'll talk about next.
I think if it was the first Black Panther trailer, we'd have a different conversation. But since that was the second one, Super Mario definitely had a lot to prove. It's got a lot to prove because the original voice casting announcements people were kind of up in arms over, right? Way back when. And I will say, watching this trailer, it's an oddly paced trailer. It's weird on what it does. It doesn't give us anything story-wise. And it kind of starts off slow and then picks up. But it doesn't mean it's bad. I'm absolutely having a great time looking at this and even calling out some of the Mario references along the way, right? So
yeah, it was interesting. I was curious, what was it going to look like? Because, if you are lucky enough to see Mario cutscenes, right, for video games or promotional animations where you kind of get to see a fully rendered Mario and world. I was like, oh, is it just going to look like that? But no, Illumination found a way to kind of make this look cinematic, so it doesn't just look like you're in a Nintendo cutscene, right? The character designs, at least for Mario, are slightly different. I think his eye placement is his eyes are a little bit smaller, and
I think he's a little taller, isn't he? Is he maybe a little slender?
They're a little differently placed, so at least you can kind of tell your brain kind of already kind of starts to acclimate itself to okay, this is a different kind of property. I'm in a slightly different headspace, which worked well. Bowser looked amazing. I totally forgot that it was Jack Black. He's putting on a great voice. He's doing a great menacing Bowser.
It's not apparent it's Jack Black until maybe the end when he's talking about he's like, no one can stop me now. I'm like, oh, that's Jack Black. But before that, I'm like, who is doing this voice? They're doing a great job as Bowser. This is how I imagined him sounding in my head if he was doing it.
Yeah, really, this was a very much a teaser trailer at heart, because it's essentially kind of two scenes stitched together with a little bit of Luigi running away from some from what are the
dry bones? They're dry bones.
Bone turtles.
They're dry bones.
Dry bones running away from some of them towards the very end, and you don't really get to hear Charlie Day that much, but it's funny, you can almost hear Charlie Day's exasperated sounds, which is pretty funny. But the biggest thing that we've yet to talk about is the double-edged sword that is Chris Pratt's voice in this trailer. It's really difficult too, because he essentially, I think I counted the words, it's 7 or 9 words that he says. The first half just sound like Chris Pratt. The second half kind of sounds like there's a little bit of a New York accent to it. Maybe.
That's exactly it, because I think this is a poor example of his Mario voice, because when he lands, I'm like, oh, this is just the Lego movie voice. He's doing his Emmett voice the whole way through this. Boo. But when he does the second one, it's less Chris Pratt and more New Yorkian, kind of thing. And he hides it a little better there, his voice. And I'm like, this is a really weird way to put the internet at ease.
Yeah. I'm of three sets of minds right now. The first one was, like you just said, this was just a bad outing to show us what Chris Pratt was going to be like as Mario. We will have obviously better examples of what his Mario voice will sound like, I'm sure, moving forward, because that was a lot of the marketing we got, at least out of kind of Chris Pratt, in interviews, oh, you're not gonna believe this new voice that I've cooked up for Mario, right? So we haven't really gotten a good example of what that's supposed to be. The second bucket that I'm in is that was Chris Pratt the best choice, right? Or is he just the most famous actor that you could get attached to your movie, to get the biggest box office draw for a Mario movie, right? Should the IP of Mario kind of not finally being turned into the movie, but kind of really being taken seriously for the first time in cinema, we need a similar actor of weight to match that gravitas. So maybe was Chris Pratt the best idea? I don't know. But the third bucket is it was never going to be the original Mario voice, people.
Right.
I cannot listen to that original Mario voice for 2+ hours unless you make the character essentially mute. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm not going to be able to take any line delivered seriously in that silly little Mario voice. It's great for a character, but there's not enough range of emote. And I'm not saying the voice actor couldn't attempt to do it. Like, I'm sure the voice actor that does Mario is insanely talented, but like that voice is specifically catered to video games. I don't want to listen to it for 2 hours or more likely 90 minutes, you know?
Yeah, Charles Martinet, who is a voice actor, he doesn't have a lot of like, he does video game voice acting, but if you go look at his actual work, it's not a lot of other than Mario and like occasional characters in there. I played Mario Party Superstars this weekend with my in-laws, and I'd shoot myself before listening to Mario and Luigi, his voice like that for the whole movie. Like it's fine in small doses, but like he's like, it's Mario time. I'm like, no, stop. I couldn't do this. I'd be nails on a chalkboard. So I agree with you there. I'm gonna lean in to say, Nintendo has very, very precious of their Mario IP, right? Or all of their IPs, right? Since the original disaster that is Super Mario Brothers from 1993. And that's fine. They're allowed to do that. I think a couple things here with Illumination, they've done really well. This is a beautiful movie for animation, right? Like, I think the detail is there. The hair in Mario's mustache, even down to the detail in the teeth on Bowser. Very, very well done. I love the Mushroom World, right? It looks great. The music's there. They even do that very epic piano version of the Super Mario theme song. I need to see how the story plays out. I think it'll be fine. I do notice that they are adding modulation, or at least some effects over the voice actors so far. Keegan Michael Key is the Toad voice, right? And they've done something to his voice there, because I'm like, I hear him, but there is a modulation, like a higher pitched modulation over him, or sped up or something. So very excited for that. It just looks fun. I think there's going to be the humor there, because like the penguins all roll out in full force and they think they're doing lots of damage to Bowser, and then it zooms out and they're just hitting him with like light snowballs. is pretty hilarious. So I think this is going to be just fine. Will it break records or like be the best or video game movie ever made, Mike? I know we talked about that last week. I don't think so, but I think it'll be a competent one at the end of the day. I think there's enough people who, like, again, Nintendo have enough stake in this. The Illumination team, they've probably got a lot writing on this. I think it'll be fine at the end of the day. Maybe not the best thing in the world, but still okay, right? I think we can agree with that throughout it. But I couldn't see any other other than the Luigi scene is like a homage to Luigi's Haunted Mansion video games. I thought that was a fun little reference there at the end when he's running away from the bones into the castle kind of thing. Is there any, like, to me, this looks like it's pulling out of Mario, the original Mario's for Nintendo and Super Nintendo. Do you have any desire to see like Mario Galaxy, like where they're going to different worlds, or any like the newer Mario stuff, like when they're in like New Donk City and it's like a human city? Like, what do you think? Like, what do you want to see in this to make you happy?
I would assume that they go classic for the most part whenever they can. I mean, the franchise has been around for so long. Like, it's gonna be great for them referential wise, right? You could just like chalk it full of like little Easter eggs through like the video game world, and they'll have plenty of content to do multiple sequels for sure. So I don't really know if
so many
people know much about New Donk City, because I haven't played that Mario game myself, but it could be kind of funny maybe in a sequel, show Mario next to like real life person.
And that's kind of what it is. New Donk City is like that hyper realistic look, right? And he does exist in the games next to like actual tall people, which is weird. But I think we're gonna get we've seen the staple. There's pipes, there's mushrooms, there's Bowser's flying fortress. I would love to see Bowser's kids, right? Like he's got like a dozen kids in the games. Like, why does who is Mrs. Bowser, and why does she have all these kids with him? I think that would be hilarious reveal for that. But yeah, I mean, I honestly, I don't have a lot of bad things to say about it. It looked fine. It looked like a Mario movie.
Yeah.
And Other than Chris Pratt, hopefully not sounding like Emmett from the Lego Movie the whole time, I think it'll be okay. So check that out. That's coming out April 7th, 2023. Good spring movie. Like Mike said, it's kind of overshadowed. I can't talk today. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Tickets did go on sale on Monday, like we talked about last week, and those are available. And to do so, they also announced a new trailer, or dropped a trailer with those new things to announce the tickets are on sale. And this one gives us the official confirmation we all were looking for, Mike. Namor has winged feet, and he can fly very nimbly with his winged feet. I know everyone was wanting to know. But here it is.
You know what's crazy? I don't know if this is necessarily true or not, but I watched the trailer previous to this one, right? There's a short scene where it kind of shows the birth of Namor.
Yes.
And there is like a little baby that has like winged feet on there.
Yep.
And I just never noticed it before. I'm sure people did like Easter egg like articles and videos where they made a whole thumbnail, right? Where you do a red circle around that baby's ankles. Oh, look, he's got the winged feet. It never came across me. So when he had the winged feet in the trailer and he's kind of doing that flying / like almost like invisible platform jumping that it looked like, I was like, that is like badass. It looks so cool. I love the vibe of this trailer. It's like so dramatic but intense, and like the action scenes look just really amazing, and also like the special effects too. Like they're doing like a really, really good job on this. There's like a beautiful shots that are just totally rendered in a computer that are just like looking amazing. So man, everything is popping off on this so far. I think this movie is going to be the best thing like Marvel has probably made since Endgame, I think.
Yeah, and what's great is, number one, it's going to be introducing Namor, who's like one of the longest lived comic characters, right? Like since the late 30s. So he's a huge long comic book character. It is the first, Black Panther movie since the passing of Chadwick Boseman, like we've talked about. A lot of weight on his shoulders, but it's 2 hours and 40 minutes long. This is a very, very long movie. So, and it caps off Phase 4. So, I agree. Like you don't want to end your phase on just kind of like a, nothing against like a Black Widow movie, right? A prequel that has nothing to do going forward. So, I'm very excited to see what this does. You also hear M'Baku call him the Kukul Khan is his name. The thing that's actually taken, I believe, out of Aztecian or Mayan culture. One of them. That's actually like one of the names of like their deities in there. So like they are really, really pulling that South American heritage, into this. Quite not just with the looks, but like with the mythos and stuff like that. And I'm very excited to see it. I get Namor flying and like zipping around was really, really cool to me. I go with that. The last thing I did see on here, there's a shot of Riri Williams, Mike, in her Ironheart armor, the version 1.
Yeah, and it was like the same that we saw with the last trailer, right? The last trailer, we just got a very kind of quick glimpse of like one angle of the Black Panther suit in the last trailer, and that's essentially what we got of this armor set, right? We just kind of got looking up at kind of like the boots as it like flies away. We don't really have a full look at the costume yet, but the very end of this trailer, we do finally get full on kind of confirmation in a way that the new Black Panther is definitely shaped like a female, right? We could infer very intelligently who's in the suit in that specific shot, but it very much looks like a female body shape that's now in the Black Panther suit. Yeah,
and easily, I mean, honestly, we could be faked out, Mike. What if there's multiple Black Panthers, right? Like, maybe since, that's something honestly, they could easily do.
That is kind of an idea that I had, right? In my head of like, while we're watching the movie, this Black Panther suit, maybe different people are like kind of like trying it on in a way, or other people are busy doing other things. So like, oh, Shuri's like busy making something like technological that has to get finished, or everyone's going to like die or whatever. So somebody else has to jump into the Black Panther suit. So they could just be trading it on and off until maybe somebody at the very end, like, oh, you've done the best, so you get to be the Black Panther now, something like that.
Yeah, well, it could easily be one an at-home, quote unquote, like in Wakanda Black Panther, and then like another one that's more worldly, right? That goes around and kind of helps other people.
Like a home team and an away team jersey.
Pretty much. Yeah. You get the away team Black Panther outfit. But yeah, I think seeing that was really cool. It seems that the suit has this shock absorption, right? When they land, the purple goes up the legs as well, like from the old suit. So very, very similar to the other one. I'm excited for this. I don't want to dig into this too much. I don't want to ruin myself on this movie, right? Because it's our last Marvel movie of the year. It's the last of the phase. It's got a lot going. So I'm trying not to dig into anything beyond this. And we're a month out, so hopefully we don't have any more trailers. I do know there's a Sprite Zero promotion going on with Black Panther that has like AR stuff and QR codes you can scan on the cans. So, keep your eyes out for that if you're into it. But I'm very excited. And I think I've been telling people, get your tickets now or else you're going to miss out. And the reason that is it's a 2 hour and 40-minute movie, meaning you can only fit so many screenings in per day, Mike. So, and I remember very distinctly, when schools, like whole neighborhoods and communities were buying tickets to Black Panther 1 for everyone to kind of go see it. So I think this is going to be just as big as that. I wouldn't necessarily say bigger, but I think just as big for that throughout the whole thing. But yeah, I'm thrilled with this. I mean, I got my tickets, Mike. You might have not got yours yet. I know you're probably looking.
Oh, I got them.
Okay, cool.
I got them.
I know you did. I'm remembering now. Because I'm looking at our chat thread here with our friend of the show, Quentin, who got his. So very, very excited. Let's shift gears. We're going to go into the next two topics are very spoilery territory for anyone who hasn't watched Werewolf by Night or is not up to date on She-Hulk. So if you've not watched Werewolf by Night, pause here, go watch it, come back and listen. Same with She-Hulk episode 8, which is we're going to talk about right after this. So let's get into Werewolf by Night. Dropped on Disney Plus Friday, Mike. And this is now a Marvel special presentation. Is that what they called it, I believe, at the front of it?
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I know it's going to be a fun movie when they take the intro, the title and music and Halloween it up, right? They spooky up the music and add werewolf slashes across it. I think we're in for a good time with this movie, because it goes to black and white pretty quickly. There's no need to beat around the bush. We've already talked about it, but I had a really good time with Werewolf by Night. This 50-minute kind of isolated, quote unquote, one shot, right? Little video here that introduces monsters to Marvel kind of at large. And I think not just because it's black and white, there are some very old effects, in here. You ever do you see the cigarette burns and the film grain kind of stuff early on? Thought that was really fun. They kind of try to lean into the not slasher movie, what's that called, grindhouse feel a little bit of this movie. Someone's very cheesy, very fun, but I had a good time, Mike, and I think this is kind of that change of pace, change of tone, change of genre that the MCU needs to kind of keep itself fresh and still have a good time the whole time through it. So yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, it was the perfect amount of time for me to just really dive into this monster world a little bit. It held my attention for just the right amount of time. I love the whole aesthetic of it too. I feel like, I know people back in the day didn't have the luxury of watching full-length features in color, right? So we're obviously all very spoiled by this point in time. But it does kind of seem like something like, if I had to sit down in this for 2.5 hours, like a Black Panther length, probably the gimmick would have run dry. But I felt like the perfect amount of time, just sit down, encapsulate me for, the run of House of Dragon episode or, even like a Lord of the Rings episode, right? An hour-long drama. I loved it. It did a lot of heavy lifting for a lot of the questions I had when it came to this monster world in general, right? That Feige's putting together. What is it with these monsters? Have they always been around? Is there going to be some sort of multiversal shift that brings monsters into the MCU at large? And it seems like we've kind of gotten our answer, that they've always been out there. They've always been there. This is an ancient group of monster hunting people that have been around for a while. And that is going to be our answer. I would love to see them play around with that idea a little bit more in a future movie, possibly Blade.
Is it Blade?
Where maybe these monsters like they have always been around there, but why would these monsters now feel the need to maybe stay in the shadows when there's aliens showing up to Earth, right? When there's all these like sorcerers, like, getting jobs at like Target, if you will. I know that's just a joke, right? But why should these monsters have to hide in the shadows anymore when there's way bigger stuff going out there in the world? So I would love to see like maybe that concept pop up in a way. Why all of a sudden now in the MCU are monsters important if they've always been around there, right? Mm-hmm. And who knows, maybe the House of Harkness will deal with this a little bit, since this is also slightly kind of going back in time with the mysticism. So there's still more to explore there, but I thought this was a fun way to kind of dip our toes into it. And I don't know, Chris, I know you know a lot more about these shows going into them than I do, but I didn't know that this show was essentially taking place in present times for the most part until they got to the scene where they were stuck in the crypt. And you could see all the dates on all of the, I guess, coffins, if you will. Like I was seeing like 1861. I was like, okay, this could be happening in the 1920s. I get that. And then I saw one that was like 1987 or something. I was like, hey, wait a minute, this is not happening as old as we think it is. The time of this story is not matching the aesthetic of the story. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. I think it's. I didn't know, but I think it's kind of alluded to, right? If you look at the details, right, the stone, or the I guess the dates, the placards, right, in that tomb kind of point towards modern times. And then at the end, literally the movie comes to color, right? They start playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, then the movie comes to color, and you essentially get what I'm calling a Han Solo and Chewbacca buddy relationship between Jack and Ted, Ted being Man-Thing. Like, literally, he's like a Chewbacca character, right, in this. Like, he doesn't talk, he's just all muscle, hilarious, but like, yeah, you don't know, and then when it comes to color, like, oh my gosh, like, this is like real life, this is current day kind of thing, and that's where they lead you to. But I would never have guessed it, like, leading up to, they could have been like, oh yeah, this is set in 1910. I'm like, yep, the record player lines up with that, everything else kind of lines up with that, but they did lean into it, saying yes, this is modern day there at the end.
Yeah, and speaking of Ted / Man-Thing, I mean, I loved his like just body horror annihilation of just, I'm gonna touch somebody and they're gonna like, I wasn't entirely sure if they were melting or bursting into the flames or what exactly was happening, but it looked awesome in black and white because his melting power, if you will, was getting so hot, on a black and white film that would just show up as white because it would be the brightest thing in the scene when he just grabs that dude's head later at the end when he like drops through the ceiling and grabs her and just burns up. Like, what a horrifying power for a creature that is supposed to be like good, right? It's almost kind of like a Groot-esque in a way, where Groot, can like skewer multiple human beings with his arms if he wanted to,
and smiling the whole time he does it.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't know it was going to be that buddy dynamic either. I was like, oh, what's happening here? At the start, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I know who the werewolf is, right? But, how does, Man-Thing tie into this? What's going on? And then it's like, they're buddies. Oh, this is fun.
Well, I think one of the downfalls of this special is the name, Werewolf by Night. Because, number one, we actually see, I think, more Man-Thing on screen than Werewolf, ironically, right? Because we see, I think it's very effective how they do the transformation, like with the flashing white light. Very cool, but like he's only in it for like a couple minutes, totally, and it's fine, it leads to the horror. But like, I think that if they would have titled the show something else, like Bloodstone Manor or something with a bloodstone rather than Werewolf by Night, I think it would have made that revelation that much cooler. Because knowing there's a werewolf in here, with the title, you're like, where's the werewolf? Who is the werewolf? Oh, it's probably this dude right here. Pretty early on. So I'm like, title change could have really gone a long way for this, but it doesn't take away from everything else. There are some cool monsters, right, in the trophy hunter room, right, from Ulysses Bloodstone. We get to see like a Sasquatch and like a Wendigo and like a Nosferatu style vampire. So been some vampires in there. I thought the one guy who had the crossbow arm was actually a sorcerer. He was kind of dressed like he had some magic abilities, like from the Kamartaj. So I thought he was going to do some stuff, but he didn't. So that's fine. I think all the the bruteness, the brute force of these mechanical weapons, the axe, the crossbow bolts, right? The spiky ball mace, whatever that is, like really added to the element of like what era is this set in and why are they used against monsters. And it was really fun. I think they really stayed true to the aesthetic of a B horror film, made in the 40s, even though it is modern, and you could tell it was on digital film the whole time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to more of these.
I think
crank out one of these every year.
I think you could even do. I think you could probably convert some of the shows into these, or some of the ideas for shows into this. Like, I would maybe like the Black Panther spinoff that they were talking about, or the Shang-Chi spinoff, like the 10 Rings thing. We don't need 6 episodes. Do one of these. Do like an hour 50 to hour and 10 minutes, right? One of these. I think that'd be fine. Really kind of keeps the mystery afloat, and then also it's like, you don't know what's going to happen with this. So I really I agree with you. I think there needs to be more of these, and they could probably convert some of the shows into these smaller presentations, if you will, like one shots. For lesser known characters. Now, the question I'm going to have for you here at the end, Mike, is where do you want to see these guys next? Is it Blade? Is it, do they get a sequel, follow up? Werewolf by Night, Man Thing by Day is the next one? I don't know, like something stupidly named like that. Like,
yeah, that's a good question, right? Do you think it makes sense for them to have their kind of own property next? Like, is this like a soft launch, right? Kind of like, not really a backdoor pilot, but for a series? Or is it kind of cool where you're watching your next series or next movie, your heroes are in a bind, and then all of a sudden like, well, we know somebody, and then these two show up on screen, and now we know them, we're familiar with them, something like that. Yeah, it's hard to say, right? Where do they fit? I mean, it makes the most sense to kind of keep them more of in a spooky monstery atmosphere. So yeah, maybe Blade makes the most sense. I don't know.
Blade, Elsa Bloodstone took over the mansion, right? And the Bloodstone, I think she's got potential for a series, possibly like a Monster of the Week style series, if they want to do like 6 of those. And she could call on these guys if she needed them to. But yeah, I think honestly, I wish there had been. It's very short on the werewolf in here, but everything else throughout this, there's a little bit more. It's a body horror, maybe like mutilation, like the guy took the crossbow to the head, kind of thing, and some people were getting kind of brutally murdered in this. I think it was interesting. So I don't know. I had a good time. I just want to know what's next, because they're such good characters. We do know they're fighting King Thanos in that MCU ride at Disneyland coming up, right? Because they're in that poster. So glad we got to see that. All right, so let's shift gears into She-Hulk, episode 8, the I guess penultimate episode, and we finally get the team up that we've been promised, Mike, for this, and that is the arrival of Charlie Cox's Daredevil, his second dipping of his toes into the MCU, right? The first one was Spider-Man, No Way Home, and then into this one, and nothing feels better than having Charlie Cox come back as Daredevil, right? Like, I felt so good with him in there, and he just embodies that role the whole time. I really loved it. It
feels great, and you don't have to do like all of this legwork, right? Of like origin stories. We know who Daredevil is from all of his Netflix outings, right? Even though technically this is not the same Matt Murdock, but canonically, when that Matt Murdock was sleeping next to She-Hulk in that bed that night, he dreamed about the Netflix.
That's right.
Charlie Cox.
That's
because
right.
That is canonical. That is the dream walking that happens now within the MCU. But yeah, it was great to see them. I love the banter going back and forth of just like, you're going to go down, you're going to take an hour to pick those dudes off one by one. Yeah. I'm just going to smash in there. I'm just going to Hulk smash. And so I love that back and forth there.
The chemistry between them in the courtroom, like, they weren't bashing each other. They were being like actual like respectable lawyers. They didn't make each other look like an idiot. They were doing like actual lawyering. The reveal that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed was interesting. That was kind of a throwaway line for such a big deal.
Yeah, that was a big deal. And it makes you wonder why exactly they were repealed, right? What's the reasoning there? Was it something everybody wanted? Is there some secret invasion stuff happening here with politicians removing things in their way?
It was probably in game. It was probably when Thanos came back. They were like, we need the
It's just
yeah.
it's just like, well, they kind of started all of this, but they saved us all and brought us back. So maybe we remove maybe we do them a solid and remove the Accords. I don't, or maybe it was just one of those procedural government things. Like maybe they repealed them when half of the senators and congressional House members were just gone, right? Because they were dusted. So like, yeah, we can put anything through the House now. No one's here to vote on anything. That would be pretty funny.
But the chemistry between them was fantastic. Yeah, that's really the point.
Yeah, I think She-Hulk is at its best when it's able to kind of bring things in from the MCU and kind of satirize it in a way, right? You know, Matt Murdock / Daredevil, a very serious character from his shows. I mean, those Netflix series were extremely dramatic. You know, every once in a while there'd be some Foggy Nelson would say something pretty funny. There'd be some clever banter back and forth, but it was a pretty brooding show, right? So we got to kind of see her make fun of Matt make fun of her. I thought it was hilarious when he's fighting those goons. I was like, oh, those goons don't stand a chance. They're in a hallway.
I said that. I'm like, oh my God, it's a hallway fight scene. This is what we've all been waiting for.
That's the last place you want to be with that dude. Yeah, it was great. It was so much fun. I love the little remarks of like, oh, the collateral damage that Jennifer Walters caused at the parking garage. She's like, oh, I'll leave a note.
Yeah.
You know, everything was firing off on all cylinders. If anything that this episode did bad was make me look back on the rest of the series going, where has all of this stuff been?
Yeah. Right?
I've been having good time with the show. Definitely. There's great jokes. I've been having a good time, like I said before, but it's felt like kind of empty in a way, right? Like it feels like the show doesn't exactly know what it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Like if you just want to straight up just be a sitcom, like bottle episodes every week where it doesn't matter what episode you watch these in order, like, you know, if it's like Seinfeld or New Girl or something like that, where, you know, we're just going to hop in and have some laughs and, you know, we don't really need an after credit scene, right, for a comedy show. But then sometimes they will dip into something pretty serious and then we're trying to follow a narrative. So it just feels a little messy, but I think that's just in general for Marvel on Disney Plus, where the structure is just kind of all over the place. But sometimes they just nail it, and this episode really nailed it for me.
And I think, you know, of all the shows, you know, this has been a highlight. They've all been consistent, but I think this one's like, you know, it feels, maybe because it's a rom-com, right, with some action in it occasionally, and it's sticking to that. I think it suffers from what we talked about before. The villain reveal, we still don't have it, right, at the end of this episode. I'm like, they're waiting to the last half-hour episode to give us the villain and resolve this, is my concern. Now, the other side of that coin could be, it reveals like this show kicks off into Captain America New World Order with the leader, right? That's best case scenario. Like, this show ends and it goes into that movie that's coming out, you know, in 2023. It's 2023, right? Maybe 2024. So that would be best case scenario. But like worst case scenario, like, we've not really gotten who the villain is. Like, we know there's someone called Hulk King. It's probably that nerdy guy who keeps showing up in all the episodes.
It really felt that way too, because when they did the previously on for this episode, they showed him again. They specifically highlighted the scene where he called her a specimen in a way. So it's just like, unless they're doing some, like, you know, 4D chess, like fourth wall breaking stuff, and specifically trying to put our brain in that direction, and then Jen's gonna look at the camera and go like, "Oh, we fooled you. You all thought it was gonna be this person."
Yeah, it's Mephisto.
You know, I'm not saying that's not possible, but yeah, like you said, we only got one episode left. I like the direction that they went here, though, where it's just like, you know, Jen supposedly has had herself under control, but when she's really pushed up against the wall into a corner, you know, you go Hulk a little bit, you go a little feral. So now, you know, her public image has really shifted towards the end of this episode. How is she going to get out of this? So finally, we kind of have a little bit of like drama for her, what it is to be a Hulk. So, I mean, it seems like we got to get Bruce back in at least the last episode in some way. At least get him on a Skype call, you know. Let's see him Zoom.
He's got to come back. I think, you know, what I appreciate about it is at the start of the show, Bruce told her, like, hey, here's all these things you have to do, you have to deal with, right? She's like, you have to be a superhero. She's like, I don't want to be a superhero. Well, guess what? She became a superhero. You're going to have to deal with people, you know, perception of you, all this stuff. So everything he's told her has come true across every episode. So that's been really, cool to see. But you feel his absence, right? You feel Bruce being gone off planet since episode 2, and I'm like, hopefully he does come back. I think that would be best case scenario. I think it would be hilarious if he lands and he has a son from another planet, and that's why he was called back to Sakaar, right? Like he's like, oh, meet my son, and there's another Hulk. But not saying that's going to happen or not. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah. I would just love my expectations to be subverted in a way, right? Because it just kind of seems really obvious what's trying to be accomplished in this show right now, where it's just like, like people are trying to get close to her, they don't like her, and they want her blood so they can make more of her. Previously, only Bruce Banner as the Hulk had this blood, and there was no way that you could ever get close to that dude. He would just like Hulk clap you and turn you into atoms. But Jennifer Walters seems more approachable in a way of like, this is an actual human we could get samples from. So that just kind of seems obvious where it's going to. Yeah. And then also, I feel like at the beginning of the show, they kind of brought a lot of focus on the inhibitor collar, right, for the Abomination. So I'm just totally expecting an inhibitor collar to be like slapped on her neck or something like that, and then maybe her coworker buddies come and help take it off or something.
So I'm going to disagree. I think there's one more portion of this. Maybe she doesn't get that because she technically didn't really break any laws. Maybe, right? But like maybe they sentence her to his camp again, like to like, hey, you need to go to the chill out camp or whatever. I also don't think Titania's story has really ended either, right? Other than her losing her tooth. So they've got a lot of threads to wrap up, and we've not heard any confirmation of a season 2, but I could see them doing a season 2 possibly. But I'm really, if I had this is one of the best episodes, right? Mike even texted me ribbit and rip it, the Frogman thing. But like but at the same time, I'm like, if this is your next last episode, how are you going to end this in 30 minutes? Because I'm very concerned.
And that frog character is a great example of a way of bringing something super powered into the MCU with a believable explanation, right? Obviously, it's not like sorcery or scientific in a way. It's like a super suit, and super suits are very much established in this canon. I totally believe that somebody out there would be making them and selling them to super rich privileged people, right? I think that's great. It's more like when you bring Man Bull into it and he just offhandedly says he's a scientific experiment. And it's just like, well, okay. I think that's a pretty big deal to say in the MCU that we have science labs out there that are crossing humans with people, but, it was played off as a joke, so we're probably never going to hear about that again. But yeah, that was nice because you can bring in kind of your villain of the episode with a bit of reasoning there. But yeah, this was a good episode. I'm hoping we have more to come with the finale coming up.
Yeah, I'm really hoping it, and it's also the last TV show of the old phase, right? Like, these were all announced, within 2019. As we saw in a video a couple weeks ago, they were all filmed literally at the same time, right? Without any feedback from actual the show's debuting. So, this is going to kind of be like a phase 1 for the shows, right? And hopefully phase 2 gets better. Because I was looking back at the MCU movies, like Avengers is good. Everything else before that's pretty okay, but they don't really get great until midway through phase 2, right? Like with Winter Soldier and Guardians, nothing got great. They were good, but not great. So hopefully they can get to great TV shows starting next year with their list of stuff. So we'll knock on wood. Secret Invasion's the next one on the list. So very, very excited to watch that. All right, Mike. Well, that's the episode today. It's time to get out of here. If people know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they find you at?
Oh, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
Find me on Instagram, Valdan87, or Twitter, Valdan, Valdan. If people know about the show, what we're doing, where to get our upcoming Black Adam review at the end of this month, where they can get all ready for all that good stuff.
head on over to our headquarters, known as superheroslate.com. That is like our lily pad, if you will. That's what they called it right in that episode.
They did, and it was on the building, too, and my wife laughed at that.
Giant neon sign, superheroslate.com. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to find podcasts. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Please reach out. Let us know what you're watching, what you're listening to, what your favorite Predator movies are. We love to hear from our fans. If you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy. We'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll catch you guys next week.
Ribbit and rip it.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.